We're the largest snacking company in the world.
That everyone in the business is a leader and have a role to play.
So it just naturally made sense that, my career would progress.
And I wish someone had told me when I was in high school that that was an option.
It's all about maintaining relationships and
have such a wide array of academic backgrounds in the CCAS.
A strong network of women here to help you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Fernande.
Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how have you ended up working for Schindler?
So when I finished high school, I went to go do a pre-apprenticeship in electrotechnology. And then when I finished, I was job hunting. And then on the Seek website, I saw Schindler. And I had a look at the website and saw that they had an open day coming up. So I went and attended the event. It convinced me to want to join Schindler. So the application process had 3 stages. So the first one was to submit your cover letter and resume.
Yeah.
And then if you were selected, you were brought in for testing. And the testing consisted of numerical, comprehension, basic tool knowledge, and funnily enough, to build a Meccano set.
Right.
Interesting,
wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's a nice little practical.
Yeah.
And then the last stage was to do an interview if you completed the testing. So during the first year, I was fortunate enough to get an interview with Schindler. However, I actually didn't make it through the first year, but I started for a domestic employer. So I started my first year elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But I had a strong motivation to get into Schindler the following year. The advice I got was, come again next year.
Yeah.
So that stuck to me. So I came back and I got a job.
So, what made you choose Schindler? Like, obviously, had you heard much about them when you were at school, or was it when you went to the open day, you thought, this looks awesome, like this looks like the type of company I want to work for? Is that why you sort of chose them over like every other company?
Yeah, what appealed to me was when I was looking at the website, you had a good combination of electrical and mechanical and also electronics. Yeah, I think that's what really got me to choose Schindler. It wasn't just one thing you'd be doing. And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah. And I guess like you've always been you've been in a Schindler lift before, that logo when you've been in one of the Schindler lifts, so I guess once you can get in and see exactly what they do, you really are aware of how far reaching the company really is. So I guess it's an exciting company to work for in terms of that as well. So with the apprenticeship program, how long does it go for and what does it sort of involve?
So it's a certificate 3 in electrotechnology is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's 4 years. You do practical, which is done at work, which is 4 days a week. And then the first 3 years, you go into school 1 day a week, where you do a lot of electrical theory and with a little bit of practical as well.
Yeah.
But during the apprenticeship program with Schindler, you get rotated to different departments.
Yeah.
So there is new installs, there's modernization, and existing installs. So basically, one's service, you check the lift. NI is where you're installing lifts.
Yeah.
And modernization is where you're just upgrading lifts for the customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how have you found it so far? What year are you in with your apprenticeship now?
I'm 3rd year with Schindler.
Yeah.
So far with the apprenticeship program, it's brilliant. Everyone's great. Everyone's helpful. The best part about it is going to different sites, whether they're big or small. It's always a different site every day.
Yeah, that makes it exciting.
It really does.
Yeah. And think back to your first day. What was that like?
First day, I was excited, very excited to start, very nervous. And then when they took me into a lift, it was very different. So first thing I noticed, it wasn't just all electrical. There were a lot of mechanical things I needed to learn, which was very different.
Yeah. And what's sort of like a typical day like for you on constructions and service mods? What's sort of like a typical day like?
So
Is there like, do you come across heaps of people stuck in lifts, or is that not part of your job?
Nah, not much. I don't come with that much.
Yeah.
I've only seen it a few times, and that's stressful. Having to run around.
Yeah.
Especially running up the flight of stairs. Oh.
I guess the Schindler lifts don't break down though, so you know.
No, they don't.
No. So you don't. That's why you don't get called out to those very often, because the Schindler lifts are the best.
Yep, they get looked after pretty well.
Yeah.
So yeah, typical day on construction. We would meet up in the mornings for a briefing in the sheds. We'd talk about any sites, the tasks that everyone's doing, things like that. Then you'd go do your assigned task. And there are days when it can be a bit repetitive, but there's also a lot of different things to learn as well. It can be either little things or big things. Yeah, and then with service is a bit more interesting as well. Oh, sorry, I should say they're both interesting.
Yeah.
Service, normally the service technician you work with would have the day plan, and you'd meet them on site, and they could be doing service routines within their service routes. So you could be driving to a lot of different sites within a day.
Yeah.
Doing their tasks. And that's when sometimes if a call out happens, like let's say a trapped passenger, that's when you get sent out to that, and you try your best to fix the lift after releasing the passenger. That's probably one of the fun parts, is fault finding, but can be challenging. But that's what would happen on a service department. And yeah.
And so have you worked on any like landmark buildings, or, you know, what types of lifts and buildings do you get to work on?
So I've been pretty fortunate to work on big sites with construction. So I was doing high-rise lifts at Vicpol, and also got to work at Melbourne Quarter. And then for service, I got to work at shopping centres, the big one being Chadstone Shopping Centre. So those were the big landmark buildings for me.
Yeah. Well, there'd be a fair few lifts in like places like Chadstone.
Oh, quite a lot. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. And what do you enjoy most about your job?
Oh, there are so many things I enjoy. I guess what I really enjoy about the job is it's different every day. You go to different sites. It's always a different task, different faults, and also like working with different people as well.
Yes.
That's what I enjoy about it.
And what would you find the most challenging part of your role?
I would say physically for me, because I'm quite short. There's some things that I can't reach, which I'd always need a hand on, which everyone's willing to help.
Yeah.
Sometimes some things can be physically tough for me as well, but everyone's great. They'll help out.
Yeah, especially if you're running upstairs to try and
running out of breath.
Good exercise.
Yeah, it is. It sure is. The other challenging thing about the jobs as well is fault finding. When something just suddenly occurs, I always tend to think a bigger picture, but it's actually sometimes the smallest thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's what it was the whole time.
Yeah.
Which most of the time happens, which is funny. But yeah, that's always a challenging part.
Yeah, it would be. So thinking about the culture at Schindler, you've worked with quite a few different people. Can you tell us a bit about your managers and the support that you've had? How is the support there for you as an apprentice at Schindler?
Everyone's really supportive. If you need a hand or have questions, they're always out there to help you out. Everyone's been great. The culture at Schindler, everyone's helpful, willing to support you.
Awesome. Well, the apprenticeship applications are opening very soon. So I hope that this interview can motivate some more people to join the Schindler Apprenticeship program, just like yourself, and maybe even some more young women just like yourself. So thank you so much for joining us today, and it was great to hear your story.
Thanks, Rebecca.